Hello? Okay. I'm recommitting to using Restream, so um let me make sure everything's on. Hello, hello, hello. Woo. So this has been a weird few months, um, and especially the last week and a half, right? So I want to just come on here and say a few things in preparation of a series I'm hoping that you guys will be interested in. And I'm doing it myself. So everything that I am sharing with you guys, um, I am partaking in as well. So this is by the Elbert Williams Voting Corner. Some of you may know that I am slowly bringing that in as a new division of Let's Go Social. So I was hoping that it would be its own thing completely by now, but hopefully it will be by the end of this month. I'm going to go ahead and make sure my phone is completely off. If anybody can let me know if they can't hear me, that would be appreciated. Okay. So, the idea here is called the People's Toolkit, and it's a post-election preparedness. And what I've found is just from talking with people and over the years, we have forgotten a lot. Like, so we haven't been in this place before. So at least anybody that's alive, I think probably the closest that we've had to this stage of this nation's history for Black people is probably like Reconstruction, like right after the Civil War, where everybody was really excited for a minute, and there were, you know, um, Black people being elected to office and getting a little bit of something, and then somewhere around 1869, all that just got closed up. Um, People were given land, or land from former enslavers and all that kind of thing. In fact, my fourth great grandmother, Tamar, actually was one of the people whose enslaver had a change of heart on his deathbed, and added her to the will, and she had a little bit of land down in Brownsville, Tennessee. So after that, things changed. And in 1869, in the area um, of Haywood County, Tennessee, and the three counties around it, or the two other counties around it, were actually excluded from the vote until 1960. Yeah, that was from 1869 to 1960. Um, no people voted. In fact, the reason it's called the Elbert Williams Voting Corner is I have a great grand uncle who helped 5 people to register to vote along with the NAACP in 1939, and it created a whole terror campaign. And he lost his life in June of 1940 at the hand of elected officials. So I'm very much aware of how dangerous elected officials can be when their heart is not in the right place. Um, so, one of the things, though, that I really treasure about my family and I admire about our family when I think about like the last 7 to 8 generations that I have some knowledge of, is the fact we are resourceful, we are resilient, we are community oriented. There's a book called The Legacy of Tamar, which was based on like 100 interviews that I have a distant cousin, Ray Springfield, wrote. And in that, Tamar was 12 years old at emancipation. She talks about how her family stayed on the land, and they all looked out for kids that were orphans because of their parents being in other enslavement camps. And so so there was uh, a sense of community that went beyond themselves and beyond their biological family. Um, when I have heard the term self care, for a long time, I thought it meant, bubble baths and manicures and pedicures and getting your hair did, and it can mean all of those things and yoga and meditation. But as I followed the decolonizing self care movement, it's actually the indigenous and Afro indigenous movements from the beginning of time. Self care has always been about taking care of your village, your community. So if the idea is, if a community, we want to define it. Up until recently, a community was like 150 people, even though it's a little bit different now in the last 20 years in the wake of social media. But really, that you mostly interact with is about 150 people. So those 150 people, when someone's sick or someone dies, someone has a trauma, that affects everybody in there. When they get married, when we see marriages, when we see divorces, when we see violence, those people in your community are affected. And so I care about the election. I care about politics. I care about legislation. I care about all of that. But moreover, I care about us. I want us to be okay. And I want us to have the tools. And the tools are not just what you invent or what we roundhouse and have all these meetings about. It's also a remembering, and it's also about taking care of yourself. I had an incident today actually where um, a person of European descent, who has done a lot of work for people in the BIPOC community and Black folks, um, for people, period. She and I weren't seeing eye to eye about something, and she was speaking about Kamala, and it was, the language was, she's malicious, she's this, she's a whore. I mean, it was all of the things. And I'm just like, it's rolling off your lips a little too easy. Rolling off your lips a little too easy, yeah, lady. That I no longer feel safe with this person. This is not somebody that I consider part of my village. Because if you will talk about, um and it was much more than that, but if you'll talk about and you will libel and scandalize a person of color in that way, then I can only imagine what you'll say about me, because I don't know all what Kamala done in her bedrooms, but I probably have done about the same, if not better. So I would hesitate to consider that somebody a safe space. And what we're finding is, when you can chime in, there are fewer and fewer safe spaces for Black folks right now. Let me say that a different way. When we have situations that we're facing where there's a lot of uncertainty, kind of Gotham City elections going on. We've seen who's been pulled into the cabinet. Um, there are bound to, and not only, it's not just about who's at the White House, it's about the followers. Many of the stories I've heard from people being harmed within my community over the last 10 days has nothing to do with the president elect. It's more to do with the people who serve him and laud him. And so you see all that ugly. So we have to prepare our hearts. We have to prepare and protect our souls and our minds and our emotions. And so when I think about that, I'm really having a detox from some of the very cool people that I've done things with, elections and activism and advocacy work. Doesn't mean that they can be part of that safe space. And it doesn't mean that we can't work together, but we've got to find our safe spaces. Um, so, anyway, so this series that I'm hoping to do is, I don't know what it is yet. I'm hoping to next time I'll have a Zoom link and we can stream it on Facebook and YouTube and all the particulars. But for today, I just wanted to tell you what was kind of on my heart. And I'm thinking about, with the uncertainty of and us not knowing what's happening over the next few years, in addition to my faith, I also think about two things that happened. One, when my son was first um, taken to jail at the end of 2021, I started with a new therapist who turns out to be pretty cool. And one of the things she said was, I was listening to all the stories because I was, doing fundraising, and I was trying to get him the appropriate medical supplies he needed and stuff within the jail system, and getting communication going. And so in that process, I'm talking to all these people. And so you end up hearing everybody else's story. And so then I'm at meetings about jail reform and advocacy and all of that. And what she asked me was, make sure you're okay enough to be the advocate you need to be for your son before and then you can see where your bandwidth is for everything else. And a second, so that was the first thing, and it really made me like kind of step back, because I got my little women together and all of that, that I was, well, not wasn't just women but people together, when we were going to create our little advisory council. And I still want to do those things, but that question, I really thought about it, and I wasn't okay. I'm still not okay. I'm better okay now, but I've been taking my time to think about very really think about where I can show up and when I cannot. And so that was one thing. The other thing, I joined this moms, I think it's called the impact of incarceration on moms or something. And so it's a moms group, and we are in this weird sorority of all having incarcerated children, incarcerated adult or young adult children across the nation. And I've been in a few of these groups over the last couple of years, but this one has by far been the most beneficial, I would say. And women are coming in from all different directions. Some of the moms were absent. Some of the moms, you know, moms, you know, moms, you know, moms, everything. Let me see here. Um, and and some give their children all sorts of things in prison, some don't. Some have wrongfully incarcerated children, some, like, I know my child did all of that. So all of these things, it's all the runs the whole gamut in this group. And so a question came up, which is something that I have been wondering too, is like, how can a mom prepare? Because her son was going to be released after some years in prison. What can I do to make his transition as smooth as possible? And so the first people popped off are like, oh, you want to make sure he has, somewhere to be by himself. You want to make sure he has, it was all physical things, like he needs to have um driver's license renewed, blah blah blah, all of those kind of things, the tactical business side of having a newly released person. But then there was one mother who said, and it just stuck with me. She said, the best way to prepare for your child being released from jail or prison is to be the best version of yourself possible. I'm going to repeat that. So that outside of all that, the very best thing that you can do to meet this challenge of having a person that's going to potentially be released and have a lot of needs and wants and emotion or whatever they might have, is to show up with the best version of you. It's not just financials, not just resources. It's having someone in their village that's at their full potential, is healed to some degree or is healing. And so that was a game changer for me, because I was like, oh, it's not just about does he have a couch and a lamp or whatever, because I can do those. I mean, I hope I can do those things, even though I don't know if I'll be able to. But it's true. I I He can't come out. There's a family friend that was released recently into a situation and come out, and his mama wasn't doing good, and other family members weren't doing good, and so then he wasn't doing good. And it's true. So when I think about um post-election preparedness, I want to start with making sure we're good. So for those of you who have young children, or any children for that matter, having conversations. Like my daughter, you know had questions about, why are people scared of Trump? What is he going to do? Or that kind of thing. And also, um if you live in a place like I do, where your child may not be in the majority, or probably is not in the majority, then having other people bringing their opinions or saying things. I remember that the first time that Obama was elected, we saw all sorts of ugliness. Anytime, things are rattled, you see ugliness from the people. And so my stepson was in a situation where the kids on the bus were not only saying racial based slurs, they were actually singing them. And he was a little guy at the time. And so I think about that as far as, having conversations with your kids. Like it's not okay just to say, how was your day? Like, ask them what kind of interactions they have with other kids and adults, because adults don't always act right either. So I'm not going to keep us that long today. But the next thing I wanted to go over, which we'll do more over the next few weeks, is about protecting your peace online. So much of the scrimmages I've been on in recent months has actually been on social media and email and text. Just let it go. If you feel the need that you have to say something, say what your thing is and let it go. I respectfully, I do not agree. And then hit them with, you know, um, if you want to, actual evidence, but you don't have to. And I'm going to repeat that again. Right now, I'm talking to everybody, but I'm especially talking to people of color, and even more especially talking to Black folks, and even more especially talking to Black mamas, Black women, period. You do not have to prove anything to anyone except yourself. I had someone ask me to give the credentials for Kamala this morning. What has she done for anyone? Now, I could have, I got plenty. There have been Black led organizations, white led organizations, poet based organizations, writer led, all there's been movements for the past few months all talking about singing the praises that she's done with Black maternal health care and pushing for student loans, all these things that she's done. But I do not have to spend my energy, neither do you, on trying to be right or be heard or whatever. When you are talking to the right people, their ears will open up. And so one of the things I started doing uh, about it was a while ago. Goodness. I'd say about 4 or 5 years ago, but more importantly or more specifically in the last 3 years for sure, since my son's been in there, I've cut out a lot of noise on social media. So one place I don't tend to go is X. And after the recent changes, I probably will not be back. Um, so with X, I've decided I had already moved over to Blue Sky, but it was kind of boring for a while. But now it's open. You don't have to have an invite. Everybody's over there. So you go True Story Success with TRU Story Success. I'm over there on Blue Sky. We can have a good time. Um, you know, Pinterest is always my baby. I love it here on, Facebook and YouTube. Find your people online as well as offline. Um, yeah. So, and if you are concerned about like how, because I've seen people like, oh, get off of Twitter or X, now it's called, get off of it because he might feed this or whatever to AI. That has already been in process since Elon Musk took over. So the best way at this point is to download all of your data from Twitter and then delete it all, which takes a little longer than just disabling. Because if you just like, I'm canceling my account, all your information still belongs to them. You want to delete it all first. So, and for another question I've heard a lot is about Threads. Like, oh, why not just go to Threads? Threads is fine. I like Threads. I'm on it sometimes. But Threads, especially I'm talking right now to advocates, activists, people who share Black history and stuff, Threads is still a meta product. So that includes Facebook, Instagram, Threads, I think WhatsApp too. Those are all meta products. And Meta has been censoring Black content creators for years. For years. I've been snoozed and jailed, Facebook jailed. On Instagram, I've been deprioritized and shadow banned. I've been told I was sharing false information, even when it was about my own family, from direct information I got from the United States Federal Bureau of Investigation. So, I mean, I got a file from the FBI, shared a piece of information on Instagram, and was told it was false. So, so yeah. So just be careful. It's fine to just pop off, on threads, but just know if you are ready to build a new following, which I think it's fine. I know some of you guys have really big followings and it's great, but just know that they can just snatch you. And they can literally silence you. And in closing, so some of you were able to come to the Silence to Justice. That's kind of the theme for this coming year, which started on the Elbert Williams Voter Engagement Day on October 15th. We will not meet justice and silence at the same time. Like they don't connect like that. So if we're only on platforms that can very easily silence and mute you for telling truths, then that is alone keeping us more distance from justice. So next week at the same time, I'm excited to announce I will have Mr. John Ashworth of Brownsville, Tennessee. He'll be our feature. And the following week after that will be a small business showcase. And the week after that will be what's she call herself? Social architect, I think. Trisha Duckworth. So thank you. I wrote out an agenda and all the little bullet points I wanted to go over. And I went completely off script because I wanted just to tell you and share with you why I even wanted to do this and why I think it's important. And hopefully I'll get a chance to talk to you more. Oh, yes. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Someone asked, is Patreon an option? Yes. Let me tell you my Patreon account. hmm It's called Legacy in Action, but you go patreon.com/Leslie McGraw. And that's patreon.com/Leslie McGraw. And it's completely free because I'm just getting started to the end of the year. I won't um I won't have paywalls up until January. So